This thing is built for speed. I've said in the past that we've never really worked for Tesla, but that's not 100% true.
This is a much simpler design than the early Model S's and X's.
The one thing that I think is kind of interesting is a little Easter egg down below that
says Tesla Inc. made on Earth by humans.
How do we make all that stuff happen to get what we want? And that's where Tesla really succeeds over everybody else. I don't think people are really thinking about all of the stuff that goes on inside these battery packs, and that's probably why it's these guys that are leading the pack. I know who's buying and I know who's not buying. And those of you out there that are not buying, you're gonna fall behind. And I think you're behind already. Well, I've already talked about who I think winners and losers are gonna be, and I'm telling you what, it's time to pick up the pace. It's a real good idea if you start looking at what do you need to do in order to stay in the market. Because trust me, the Chinese are coming and they're not stupid. They do not build crap products. You need to really think hard about the reports if you happen to be in the OEM business.
In this video, the engineering expert of experts, Sandy Munro, tears down the Tesla Model S Plaid battery pack and has a massive warning for legacy OEMs. So let's get into it. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, there's a bunch of ways you can support the channel, access exclusive content and perks. Check out the links in the pinned comment below. If you want to take it to the next level, join thousands of members on Patreon to gain exclusive access to over 100 Q&A videos, loads of exclusive content, exclusive access to my up-to-date 10-year Tesla stock price targets, and even access my Tesla valuation model at the investor support level and above. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store, so check out the links in the pinned comment below, and thanks for your support. First up, a real quick look at the stock market today. Tesla stock down again, closing at $685.47. Market cap just over $700 billion. What the actual fuck? Seriously, I've said it a trillion times. I'm going to say it again. Best risk-adjusted opportunity that I'm personally aware of in the stock market. This market cap, this stock price will not age well over the long term, in my opinion. Tesla stock year to date down over 42%, and over the 1 year, Tesla stock up a whopping 0.85%, despite the execution, the massive expansion, the insane price increases, not out of desperation, but from a position of strength, and so-called competition coming all over itself. I mean, seriously. Last 1 year, Tesla stock up less than 1%. For those of you who are new around here, remember, the exact same shit happened from 2014 all the way into 2019. There were points of time where you could buy Tesla stock in 2019 less than it was back in 2014. Check this out. If you bought Tesla stock on the 7th of May 2014 and fast forward literally 5 years, you could have been buying Tesla stock 25% down from where it was half a decade earlier. Did this make sense? Of course it didn't, yet it happened. Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, once again, in my opinion, doesn't make any sense. I'm not complaining, still accumulating. but I mean, bruh, for fuck's sake, I just can't not say this every single time. At some point, I think things are going to be a little bit more attached to reality. And until then, I'm going to keep banging the drum on this. So today, the NASDAQ 100 barely moving, up a little under 1/5%. Apple stock today up 1.5%. Amazon stock today up 1.5%. Alphabet, Google's parent company, down 1/4%. Lucid down over 3.5%. Rivian down over 2.5%. ARK's flagship ETF, the ARK Innovation Fund, down 1.5%. And Nikola stock down over 7%. Now over to Corey and Sandy Munro for the Tesla Model S Plaid battery pack teardown and a major warning for legacy OEMs.
Today what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the different battery pack, batteries, the configurations, just a little bit about the difference between these two battery packs because they are not similar. What's going on with the Tesla Model S?
So the first major difference is the cell that's chosen by Tesla. They're using the 18650 cell, which is slightly smaller than the 2170, which was used on the Model 3 and the Model Y. This is one of the 5 modules that's in the Model S Plaid. And this is actually cross-car. When we tore down the Model 3 and the Model Y, as you can see over here, these are long and skinny, and there's 4 long and skinny modules in the Model 3 and the Model Y. As the cells are laid out in this module, you have 72 across and 22 in series. So this brick right here is 1,584 cells, 22S 72P. When you string 5 of these together in series, you end up with a 110S 72P, which is 7,920 cells. The Model Y and Model 3 for the 75 or 82 kilowatt hour pack has about half the cells, 4,416 cells. So when you buy a Plaid, particularly a Plaid, you're getting almost 8,000 cells and you have more in parallel. Now, Sandy, you want to give an example of the advantage to having more in parallel versus 46 in parallel here for the cells and 72 here?
We've talked about this as like having strands in a rope. And quite frankly, what this does with having this much in parallel, what it does is it gives the energy is about the same, but the power out of the S is considerably more. The Model S Plaid battery pack has more cells and they have more in parallel, which that's going to give you the oomph you need to get off the line. That's why it's so quick. It's configured for speed. The S cools better than the Model Y. And the reason for that is a smaller diameter in the cells, and Corey's going to show you that right now.
So the cooling channels are very similar between the Model 3, Model Y, and the Model S, but these are small rectangular channels inside. But one thing that's different is they're only flowing in one half. They flow in one half and then down the other. So all of the cooling channels are on one side. On the Model Y and the Model 3, they flowed in the front and then out the back. And you can see we did a cross section right here of what the inlet and outlet look like. And I'm gonna see if you can get it as close as you can. So it's gonna flow in the top and out the bottom. What's important, one of the main things we've noticed is everything is executed in a very similar manner on this module and pack configuration, but slightly different. Nothing is identical. Even the cells are wrapped in this gray PET liner, and then there's a thermal glue which glues them to the actual cooling channel itself. Also, the foam in here is very, very rigid. So if you see all this blue foam, this is a very rigid, actually walk over here, you can see how hard this is. It's almost like a hard, rigid foam. The foam on the Model 3 and the Model Y is very soft. And Sandy, you can actually pick that off.
At the end, you can, I can pick this off with my fingernail. So what's the reason or rationale behind it? Well, they need to wick away heat a lot faster over there, and because it's got more power. Power equals heat. And when you look at this, you can see that the PET goes pretty much, well actually it doesn't go pretty much around it. This thing is coated in PET and then the other adhesives are added. Now what does that do for you? Well, that means that I get a lot more wicking, and that's what this is called, is a wicking pattern. I get a lot more wicking of heat to get into my thermal extrusions. So these extrusions are called micro extrusions, and that wicking is going to make it so that I can pull the heat away from this cell faster. As I look at this right now, I see this as a way to make sure that the battery is going to be cooled. And so I've always said that, hey, you know, we should pull heat from down here, and the bottom of the battery, blah blah blah. Okay, that's fine. But if I'm going to do rocket ship starts and whatnot, well, maybe that's not the right thing. With engineering, there's always trade-offs. Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? I mean, I could go to an LFP battery, right? I got the same amount of energy, but do I have the same amount of power? This thing is built for speed. That's the way it's going to work, and that's the way it is working.
So I just want to take a moment here to quickly recap. So far, we've seen the Model Y battery pack versus the Model S Plaid battery pack, especially around thermal management. A lot of similarities. Tesla's learned a lot in manufacturing electric vehicles at scale, but there are also some extremely important differences with the Model S Plaid battery pack because the car clearly is geared around performance. Shout out to a 0 to 60 time almost as quick as you in bed. Almost. And I want to expand on this a little bit. We already know that Tesla's Model 3 and Model Y, the different architecture to Model S Plaid, have absolutely insane performance. But the Plaid Model S takes things to the next level. And it's important to understand when the budget allows, in other words, you're going to have a high enough average selling price, you can engineer things differently. You can engineer for efficiency or performance, for luxury, for all sorts of other things that you may prioritize in a higher end vehicle than a mass market product. And this is very important to understand because in the coming years, we're going to see other automotive manufacturers release electric vehicles that on paper might look like they're better than a Tesla in a very narrow area. For example, maybe a company like Lucid Motors releases a vehicle with extremely long range, and the range range per kilowatt hour in the battery pack might look better than Tesla. On paper, for sure, but we have to dig a little bit deeper. Are customers paying almost $200,000 for the product from Lucid? And if so, does that mean that Lucid can afford to use different materials, lighter materials, and reduce mass in ways that wouldn't be meaningful, wouldn't make any sense for a higher production vehicle? And the answer, of course, will be yes. So keep this in mind. It's very important to look at things from all angles and understand that when engineering a vehicle or any other product, your goal with the product is what really matters. The goal of the Model S Plaid clearly is to just turkey slap the entire ICE industry in the face repeatedly. Insane performance, acceleration, embarrassing the world's hypercars and supercars and whatever the fuck else cars they're called in the multi-million dollar range. You know, the things that add inches, those things, or signal high status. Not going to lie, they can do that as well. The reason that I mention this now is because, as I said, in the coming months and years, we're going to see vehicles coming out. Oh my God, that's got more efficiency than this. That's faster, this, that, and the other. As Sandy pointed out, there's always a trade-off with engineering. You've got to think, what's the actual goal of the product? For example, Tesla could make a Plaid version of the Model Y or the Model 3. Obviously, there'd be some major engineering changes, but what's the point? It'd massively raise the price to customers and it wouldn't make any sense. If you want ridiculous performance, that's what the S Plaid is for. If you want good performance, more importantly, from a business point of view, if Tesla wants to be able to make these vehicles relatively economically and profitably and sell them in a price range that they'll be able to sell many millions of vehicles per year, they can't go to the same level of insanity with the engineering centered around power and performance as they have with the Model S Plaid.
I've said in the past that we've never really worked for Tesla. But that's not 100% true, because when the S first came out, they had a lot of trouble with orientation and also with assembly of these modules on the Model S. This is like a long time ago when the S first came out. And so one of our guys, Tim Shaw, went down and helped them out with how to make it so that you could automate this different type of orientation. This is relatively simple, that not so simple. Why change if it works? That's kind of what we could be thinking of when we're looking at the Model S, and quite frankly, it works. It works really well. It's got great cooling. So why not just keep it the way it is?
This is a much simpler design than the early Model S's and X's. The early Model S's and X's had anywhere from 12 to 16 modules that were about a third this size. The center spine of the pack itself was structural, so you did not have full crosscar, and the collector plates were wildly, I mean, it wasn't random, but we saw one at the EV show. Very difficult, and they really struggled with the quality of the connections for the temperature and voltage monitoring. So now we're going to go to BMS.
BMS, of course, battery management system. And this is very important to understand because this is one of the things that people don't get, especially some of the walking illustrations of the Dunning-Kruger effect who are short Tesla stock. You might hear quotes such as,
Tesla buys their battery from Panasonic or CATL or LG Chem. Everyone else buys the same battery cells, therefore Tesla has no battery advantage, you idiot.
which, if you don't think a whole lot or aren't aware, this may sound reasonable, but it's actually not. It's not the battery cells that matter. It's how they're arranged. We've just looked at the pack and the differences between how the cells are arranged, how the pack's put together, how that can affect performance, etc. Same cells, different output. Anyone in theory could have made a Tesla Model S Plaid and whipped it on performance. They could have bought the same 18650 cells, put them together, and outsmarted Tesla. But they didn't, and this is why. It's not just the pack configuration, but also the battery management system. Tesla has about 15 years of data on managing batteries. This is so important to understand. This is one of the major areas in which Tesla has a huge advantage that people just don't get. This is before the 4680 cells and the structural battery pack even enter the conversation. The structural battery pack and the 4680s are huge game changers. But even before we get to that level, Tesla's experience, the data, their capability thermally managing a battery gives them a huge advantage. This is why other automotive manufacturers, despite having access to the exact same battery cells as Tesla, can't even come close on range, efficiency, performance, acceleration. Not even close. And this is the stuff that most investors are completely oblivious to, but it really matters.
One of the things we really liked about the Model 3 and the Model Y was the elegance of the BMS. So this BMS sat right on the top of the module itself.
Right.
This is from the 3, and if you flip it over, you'll see there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 locations where they monitor temperature.
The one thing that I think is kind of interesting is the little Easter egg down below that.
It says Tesla Inc. made on Earth by humans.
So just to differentiate there. So at the end of the day, looking at longitudinal batteries versus basically side to side, or the modules basically are running parallel to the seats. These things are all kind of design efficiencies that they wanted to have based on what they wanted the product to do. This goes really fast. The Model Y, Model 3 goes, but they can't touch an S. And a lot of the things have to do with, or all those things have to do with how do you control the heat? How do you control the cooling? How do you control the electronics the electrics that are associated with it? How do we make all that stuff happen to get what we want? And that's where Tesla really succeeds over everybody else.
Exactly right. Sandy Munro referring to the stuff that people don't notice and aren't aware of, the stuff under the hood, so to speak. It's so important to understand that when Tesla's so-called competition finally decide to get on the starting line and actually release a product, they're at the same point Tesla was about 15 years ago. They still have an enormous amount of learning in terms of thermally managing a battery. How do we deal with extremely cold weather, hot weather? How do we optimize for performance or for range? On and on and on and on. You can't just copy this stuff from Tesla. It's not like, oh, well, Tesla's done it now, we can just copy. It doesn't work that way. You need these vehicles out on roads. You need to learn how to manage these batteries. This is one of Tesla's largest and yet least recognized advantages.
I don't think people are really thinking about all of the stuff that goes on inside these battery packs.
Clearly, I spoke too soon. Sandy Munro echoing my own thoughts. No one's thinking about this stuff. Not just the investors who think,
Oh, Rivian Lucid, oh, they can catch Tesla.
but also the automotive manufacturers who think they're going to be catching up to Tesla someday. They don't even know what they don't know.
And that's probably why it's these guys that are leading the pack. Every one of these things has been engineered to do the job that they need to do.
So this entire pack is essentially a complex array of very carefully engineered flat pieces of aluminum, all laser welded together. Now, Sandy, I think we counted up over 16,000 welds. How important is it to control the quality of your processes and your tools you use and your...
Right.
You want to go there?
So in the build of a car, one of the things you try and do all the time is get to 6 Sigma quality. 6 Sigma means that you're allowed 3 failures per million opportunities. However, when you start looking at welding and stuff like that, these laser welds and whatnot, the number is vastly different. You go to 7 Sigma, which is 1.3 failures per billion. That's kind of a different sort of a scenario, and that's what we're looking at here. We're guaranteeing that these guys are looking at a 7 or a 7 plus kind of Sigma rating in order to make sure that this works. So let's ask the question, what happens if one of these welds doesn't work? So that means I lose a cell. So how much would that cell be worth? And I think
slightly
it's worth
more than 1%.
slightly more than 1%.
1/72.
Yeah, so that's it. So you're looking at, even if you screw up, you're not going to damage the effectivity of the rest of the battery pack if you screw up with one weld. But I don't think you are, because lasers, a laser welding operation, they almost never screw up. I've had machines that ran for years without having a single operational failure, not a weld failure. So, and by the way, there's another thing that happens. If the weld doesn't connect, your weld controller will tell you. It'll tell you that somehow something didn't go right, and you can stop the machine or you can just have the machine go back and give it another shot. There's a lot of changes that have happened in welding, especially laser welding over the years.
And I've saved the best till last. Sandy Munro's warning to legacy automotive manufacturers.
We have clients all over the world that rely on our data to make decisions moving forward. So you want to...
Well, yeah, because I know who's buying and I know who's not buying. And those of you out there that are not buying, you're going to fall behind. And I think you're behind already. Well, I've already talked about who I think winners and losers are going to be. And I'm telling you what, it's time to pick up the pace.
Just in case anyone isn't quite following along here, Munro Associates sell reports to automotive manufacturers, well, anyone who wants to buy them. They ain't cheap, which means that Munro Associates, by the way, they're the only company in the world doing this kind of stuff at this scale. So if you're not buying these reports from Munro Associates, you don't have the information. This means that Sandy Munro and the team know which automotive manufacturers, which legacy automotive manufacturers are actually buying these reports, seeing this information, and are at least aware of what they need to do and or how far behind they are. The fact that Sandy Munro is warning these OEMs, if you ain't buying our reports, you're f***ed. It's not only brilliant marketing and sales, but also fair and reasonable. It stuns me. It really honestly stuns me that there are any automotive manufacturers on the planet who aren't buying every single report Munro Associates ever do on a Tesla product. I mean, it stuns me. If you're an automotive manufacturer doing multiple billions of dollars of revenue per year and you're unwilling to invest a couple of $100,000, give or take, whatever these reports cost to learn how far behind Tesla you are, you're absolutely fucking brain dead. Although brain dead legacy automotive manufacturers seems to be a recurring theme, so I guess none of us should be surprised.
It's a real good idea if you start looking at what do you need to do in order to stay in the market. Because trust me, the Chinese are coming and they're not stupid. They do not build crap products. You need to really think hard about the reports if you happen to be in the OEM business.
Another super important point that most of the world seems completely oblivious to. The Chinese automotive manufacturers are coming. Outside of Tesla, everything meaningful in the EV industry is happening in China. It's not going to stay in China. When government motors are floundering around like morons, unable to produce a compelling electric vehicle for a reasonable price in a few years' time in the United States, you did it, Mary, you led, and it matters. Guess who's going to be there to fill the void? Chinese automotive manufacturers. A tsunami of Chinese EVs will be coming for the US, Europe, and other parts of the world within just a few years' time. In my opinion, the future of electric vehicles, which is the future of vehicles, remember, ICE is dead, is going to look like this. Tesla plus some Chinese OEMs, that's it, the end, done. To be fair, Volkswagen will probably have a tiny sliver of the global vehicle market as well, but outside of Volkswagen, Tesla with a huge slice, going to be China dominated for sure. In terms of meaningful volumes, that's it. You can count on it. Check back in 10 years' time. Tesla's going to have a huge slice of the global vehicle market. Chinese manufacturers will have a huge slice, and everyone else will be fighting for the scraps. Between you and I think it's already too late for the legacy automotive manufacturers to change course and actually catch up. They're all fucked anyway. They're all going bankrupt, and well, it was good while it lasted. As always, there's a link in the description to the full teardown video, which I highly recommend. We've just looked through some of the highlights here. And lastly, boys and girls, don't forget you can join Patreon with the card in the corner or the link at the pinned comment. You'll get up-to-date access to my Tesla stock price targets out over the next decade. Again, what the f*** Tesla, under $700 per share, $700 billion market cap, end of June 2022. Not going to age well. And all Patreon supporters also gain access to well over 100 exclusive Q&A videos and loads of other content and perks. So, I'll see you over on Patreon. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan. This is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all.
I don't know why people doubt me. You shouldn't doubt Sandy.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, there's a bunch of ways you can support the channel, access exclusive content and perks, and get some free stocks and crypto. Check out the links in the pinned comment below. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store. If you want to take it to the next level, join thousands of members on Patreon to gain exclusive access to over 100 Q&A videos, loads of exclusive content, exclusive access to my up-to-date 10-year Tesla stock price targets, and even access my Tesla valuation model at the investor support level and above. So check out the links in the pinned comment below, and thanks for your support. And if you're still watching, you're awesome. I read every single comment on this channel and I really appreciate your feedback. So if you've got any thoughts on today's video, questions, comments, or suggestions for a new video, let me know in the comments below. Check the cards on screen now to browse the merch store, join Patreon, or watch the next video.